Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was excited.
All right. We don't have anybody to speak for this first citizens forum. So moving on to the consent agenda, I hereby move to adopt the consent agenda. Hearing no objections, the consent agenda is approved by unanimous consent. We will then move into the superintendent update. Tell us something good, Alice.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, actually. I'm going to start off and have the board share through the eyes of a student day. And for the public that doesn't know, we have our teachers in their third year or teachers new to the district shadow a student and take a look at learning through their eyes. And so we invited the board to do that this year. So our board members took part in that for the morning, and then we came together in the afternoon and had lunch together and just reflected on how that went and on how learning goes. So I just think you should share what, if you were able to do it that day, share the level you were at, and share a little something. I think it's important for us to talk that through. I don't care who wants to start.
Yeah, I'll go first. So I was able to shadow a student, third grade, Sunnyside. One thing I think that I really probably took away from this is I don't think a lot of us who have been out of school for a while understand that the pace that these children have to go at and learn at, all the material that they have to cover right now. And I give those kids a lot of credit. They were able to stay on task. They were very efficient, even for third graders. Their parents and everybody, their teachers should all be proud of how well they handle their daily tasks and routines while still, enjoying their day. They still have fun. So.
All right, I was at the high school. I was with a senior, so it was interesting. I have a kid still in high school and one graduated last year. Spent the first mod. Actually, we talked about the mod schedule. I got his opinion on what he thinks about it. Actually enjoyed the format with the variety. In a writing class, which was actually very interesting, business writing, so I could relate to that. Asked him his opinion on what he thought of the class. He thought it was going to well prepare him. He's going to be an excavator when he graduates. So I thought it was interesting that he even made the connection on that, knowing that he would be working in an office. Then we spent 2 mods in autos, learn how to change a valve stem, never done that before. And then they were changing brakes, there's all kinds of stuff. But the amount of equipment in the tech area is just phenomenal. We do need heat out there, though. It was so cold. But anyhow, came over to the garage doors, and then we spent 2 mods in woods, or Raider products, right? And just listening to, I'll just say Mr. Pete, can't remember his last name. Yeah, Pitson, there you go. Talked to the class on this island they were building for somebody. It's beautiful. And then they were building some boxes for the soccer team, and just like talking through and understanding the logic behind what they were doing. Very organized. The only time which was interesting was homeroom. Those that weren't in a club just kind of sat there on their phones, and I just asked them, is this what you do? Yep, this is what we do. So, a lot of staring at each other time, but for the most part, it was a very interesting experience.
I also was in the high school with a freshman. I was in all AP classes first thing in the morning. So I agree with the pace, even at the high school. They're learning so quickly. The teachers are quick, the classes are quick. But it was an awesome experience. I talked to her about the mod schedule. She also loves it. I talked to somebody I was sitting at a table with. That student loves it too. They love learning at that pace. They love how it works. Biggest takeaway with the extended PLTs, study hall for us old people, is she loves it because she is very, very involved. Gives her a lot of time to do what she needs to do during the school day. And if she didn't have those extended PLTs, she couldn't participate probably in the things she wants to after school because the workload is so heavy. But it was awesome. The students were really, really respectful. They were respectful with their phones in the classes I was in, respectful of their teachers, each other in the hallways. It was a really awesome experience.
So I followed a 6th grade student at the middle school, and that was a really cool experience because I did go to middle school here as well, so it was kind of like a flashback, but also so different. We went to a few different classes, moved around. I would say it was really cool to see like a math class and what they're doing. Like I remember doing in 8th grade. So just how we're just so ahead of the game from like how we learned, and fast paced, switching, you're kind of like changing. It seemed like a 10-minute rule. Like the kids stayed focused for about 10 minutes and then we got to switch it up and do either a different like learning style or type, so like more hands-on versus a paper worksheet, collaborative. So there was a lot of groups, almost every class we went to, whether it was math, English or anything, it was, you were kind of in a small group and then you did individual work and then hands-on stuff. So it was really cool to see just how fast-paced it was and just how much they're taking in and learning and how excited they are about the work. So it was a really cool experience.
I was at the middle school with a 7th grade young man, and it was a little awkward at first. I said, "Hey, thanks for letting me do this," and he's like, "Well, my mom signed me up." So I didn't know if he was a willing participant or not. But, he was. We went to math, and we were working on geometry, and by the end of that unit, I was kind of catching on to some of the stuff that I used to do and participating a little bit. And then I went to ELA, and they're talking about going to Mars and writing an essay on Mars and whether we should go or not, justify it, or humans, robots, or whatever. And I was kind of involved with that. The teachers were all kind of interested in me being there because we were not. This is the first time we've been invited, and I really appreciate that. I was very happy to do this, and again, the pace and how fast they acclimate to the classes. They walk in the classes, they're right on task. I was really impressed with the school in general. Just the orderly hallways, the quiet hallways in between class. The class sizes we talked about are pretty big, but the teachers tolerate it. And these kids are just, there's a couple, they all listen differently. They all kind of take in the class differently, how they receive the information. Some kids, they don't look like they're paying attention, but they must be. There's always a couple, but it was very interesting because it wasn't what I expected as far as traditional school with desks lined up and the teacher speaking. It's such a different environment. But it's effective. It felt good. And went to band. I don't know how the band teachers can corral 40, 50 kids playing instruments, but they do. And then you go to these concerts and they're very successful. So I really enjoyed it and I appreciate being invited to it, and I'll go again next year.
I was at the high school. I shadowed an 11th grader. It was interesting because I have an 11th grader, so I could kind of test what she has to say and report back. My student saved me from the main hallway, the main staircase, which was appreciated. So we took a little bit of an extra route just for a little bit less crowded. But it was interesting. I sat in on a large group social studies class with 2 teachers teaching that lesson, and it was really interesting because you saw the different styles of the teachers that really engaged the students and kept it lively for an hour for the students. And then I was in a small group English class, and just that small intimate setting is a lot different, and students can get more one-on-one time with the teachers. So all in all, I was really impressed with what I saw, and I think our students do an amazing job.
I think it's just one of the takeaways. I really, this is actually the first time I've sat in on the reflection time with the year 3 teachers too, and I think it was really neat to see, you guys were discussing that, how the different reasons why they chose to go where they wanted to go, and talk with, through the eyes of a different student, like a kindergarten teacher was struggling, as a struggling kindergarten student. She wanted to see what does that look like if you're a student with lots of needs in 1st grade. So she went into the 1st grade and chose a student that she could follow to do that. And just hearing her kind of process through, it is going to be challenging for my kindergarten students that are challenged. It's going to be a challenge for them in 1st grade, but she picked up on some things and saw that the same thing you said, Dennis, right? They're making it. It doesn't seem like sometimes that they're catching on, but they are, and it's really surprising. And we do spend a lot of time, talking to our staff. Right now, that's part of our SAIL plan and the things that we've been looking at in our 100-day plan is how are we engaging the kids, and we continue to work on that student engagement, and some of that is the shifting every 10 minutes, the looking for movement in classrooms. When the principals are working with their staff, they've been having a lot of conversations around that. So I'm really glad it was a successful day. We also had our year two teachers out. They were doing, they actually shadowed teachers and kind of just went, in companion classrooms or different levels and wanted to see how things were functioned at a different level. So they also were doing some of that work too as part of our mentoring program. So it's a really nice program. All right, more sharing for the board. We were also, I know it's been a while, but we were also at the state convention. All of you were able to participate in that, but a couple of you were. So Sarah's not here tonight, but Heidi and Jennifer, you were at convention. Do you want to share anything out from that? I know it's been a little bit of time, but.
Yeah, it was great. The keynote speakers were good. I went to a lot of safety stuff again, research-based approaches to school safety, some board stuff, continuous improvements for boards, boards' roles in communication, building all-in culture. So lots of really good modules that they did. Actually got the chance to have coffee with the state superintendent, pick her brain about Act 20, and all of the demands around that, so we chatted about that a little bit, but it was good. It was great to meet board members from across the state, superintendents from across the state. Lots of learning, lots of conversations, lots of reflection, so it was awesome.
Yeah, same. I'm also the delegate for WASB, so there was voting and there on the resolutions. I was going to bring that back, so there was a couple that did fail and did not pass through. So one of them was specifically decoupling public and private school funding. And so I found it very interesting in listening to everybody speak. So, obviously across Wisconsin, we have delegates on all the school boards, and something that sometimes you think like, oh, this could be a good thing. Others kind of brought up information saying, well, that's actually probably could not be. And something that I did take note of is a couple of school board members mentioned a WILL article, and it was mentioned multiple times about how Arizona did that, and it actually negatively impacted public schools. So it ended up where, private schools got more funding and the public schools kind of got left behind. I guess that is a good thing to be determined, but I definitely saw the other side of it and thought that was interesting. There was some different stuff about accountability and school report card standards, and that one failed as well. And all this does is, it's what WASB would kind of help, I'm missing the word, it's left my brain, but advocate on our behalf of public schools. So that's all that really means for these resolutions, is what they all kind of advocate for. As for the sessions, went to a lot of great ones. One specific that I really enjoyed was enhancing the community engagement in K through 8 education. I found that our school district is, I already knew it was great and amazing, but a lot of those sessions I felt like we could have presented what we do every day and really kind of, we have a pretty high bar. So just seeing what other schools were presenting and how we were checking a lot of those boxes already was so impressive. So I really enjoyed the time meeting other school board members, superintendents. It was a good time. Jenny, did you want to add anything from the convention?
I would add that the last keynote, and he was a fill-in, was Joe Sanfilippo, who we've had in our district and who was a teacher here in the district, and so he always hits it out of the park. It's a good feeling, and he makes you really reflect and think about telling your story and it being a positive story, and so just a great reminder. We've had him, I think, keynote with our staff twice now, and probably, in a year or two, we'll probably look to bring him back, and so you'll want to be there because it's high energy.
Well, if he keeps presenting as a sidekick to Brene Brown, I don't know if we'll be able to afford him.
Well, I put in a little word for us when I met him afterwards.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, come in Pulaski, please.
We had him, 3 years ago? I think he
Yeah, it was my first year on the board.
So awesome. I would encourage any of you and all of you to attend. The one session that we did attend was the full day 4K, and we already, before we went to the conference, we had already knew our data, and we're kind of compiling that to present to you that you saw last time. But it kind of, we did actually take a few nuggets from that session, and it was good, and we used that when we came back and talked with you about it, and it was just like another, sometimes it's good for us to, when we're there, to kind of say, yep, we're on the right track, or wow, how did we miss this whole train, or where are they going and how are we not? But it's a good pulse check when you're there to see how you're functioning as a district. So thank you for that. I appreciate it, Heidi. We also had we're coming up on this Friday, we have our all-staff PDL days. You are invited to that. If you would like to spend some time with us in the morning, we will have a fantastic keynote. It's Tina Bugren, and she's going to speak to us. That's kind of like our wellness day, and she's going to, we've given books out to any staff member here in the district that wanted them, the 180-day plan book for wellness for educators, just kind of like, the checking of the box. And if you remember that at the back to school day, we had passed those out. So she's coming to us, and this has kind of been we've known for a year that we were going to have Tina come and speak. So we're excited to have her. I'm more than welcome to join us in the morning for that.
Is that
If you're
at the
early
high
enough.
school
It's at the high school, yeah.
auditorium?
And we'll have coffee and stuff in the morning. So if you, I think we have coffee in the morning. Pretty sure we do.
What day was it again?
That's
Friday.
Friday. That's Friday. Yeah. So if you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to. And then also just another opportunity for inviting you. I just don't want you to forget two more things, actually. I did list on here, I just keep bringing this back, and I know the dates seem far out, but we are registering for the PLC Institute, which is takes place in the beginning of August. So if you want to know about the true architecture of a professional learning community, and you want to lean in on that and really learn more about it, that would be the one for you to go to. But I will tell you that there will be less staff at that one than normal, because we have so many of our staff have been trained over the years, because we've been in this process for a while. We already have over 200 members of our professional staff have gone to an institute. So I don't think we have as many at the institute at that event as we do going to the RTI at work that's in December. So depending on where your thinking is, if you want to, if you really want to lean in and hear the full story of how a professional learning community works, how it's come to be, how we have landed in that philosophy, I would lean more towards going to Madison in August. Otherwise, the RTI at work event is actually here in Green Bay, correct, Jenny? And that one, it takes place in December. So, but that would also be I think it's a 2-day event. But it's nice because you can come home at night. You're not staying over there. So just keep that in mind. Those are 2 sets of dates that I have in here for you, as well as Day at the Capitol is coming really quick. That's March 12th. So I will be at SAIL that day with the team, but Mark Logan, the business manager, and it's a wonderful year for him to be going and advocating because of the budget. He will take any of you that want to go, but we will also need to get you registered. So I know, Dennis, you had kind of shown interest in that. So if you want to just let me or Dana know.
It's not a big expense, is it, as far as registration?
No,
Just
no,
that list of
not at all, and it's well worth the day. The day is fantastic. There's kind of a round table debate in the morning. They walk you through some stuff. You go into the Capitol, you meet with your reps, and they have a beautiful lunch. You get to meet with your reps again, and they have set appointments for you. So it's all set up and done very well. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that would be?
I have to check my calendar, but
Okay.
possibly, yeah.
So that's March 12th. All right. So just if you want to do that, Mark said he will absolutely take you, and you guys can go together as a district. And then the other Brown County.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
The other Brown County Day, districts there will be showing from them as well. And so as you know, we match up on many of our reps. So then when you go into the room, somebody speaks on this, you don't all speak on the same thing. So we kind of rallied before we went in to see our reps, and then we talked about, who's gonna talk about revenue caps, who's gonna talk about special ed funding, who's gonna talk about, whatever it is you kind of wanna hit on. Okay? So it works out really well. And you'll meet a lot of other board members there from the area that you probably already know, so.
Is the Madison a full day? And aside from travel, is it a full day there?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we don't get back, we got back like at 8.
It was late.
Yeah, it was like 7 o'clock at night when we got back that day. It was a long day.
Okay.
Yeah. I do remember that, it being a full day, and they had you busy the whole time. Okay, those were the invites. I had to make sure I had you aware of. Now, just some other things that have been happening, and I'm sorry my updates are so long tonight, but we just have a lot going on in the district. We had Safety Week, that was held February 3rd through 7th. You probably saw the communications because most of you are parents as well. So we sent out, we went through safety scenarios. We were with students. We ran drills in the buildings, and we sent out a recap at the beginning of the next week, just thanking families and letting them know if they had any follow-up questions. So we feel that week went well. We also had on February 3rd, we didn't have any elementary students here on that day, and our elementary teachers worked on their PRPs, or their personal reading plans, as part of the Act 20 legislation, or law, I should say, and so that literacy work was done on that day, and the feedback was really good. I've got Curtis is here tonight. Do I have any other elementary principals? Just one, but it was good feedback from our teachers, correct?
Correct.
So we just got a lot of work done, and there's a lot of work that goes into those. But I think it was, when I talked to a few principals, it was once they got through the first one, it was kind of daunting and scary, but then they got the hang of it, and
it's funny because we just got an update kind of like at our coalition, even with like all the parent meetings and stuff, and you said it exactly right. That first one is real daunting, and then after that it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of reminded me a little bit of when we switched to MacBooks. It was a real big thing until you worked on a MacBook for about a week, and then it was fine again. So, but we spent a lot of time though complimenting. I mean, the fact that they had this time to be able to do that. You want to talk about being able to take some anxiety off. Brooke and I were really actually kind of surprised. Our Crystal's here, learning support teachers, and our student center coach visited a lot of people during that day. We were actually surprised. We didn't have a single person come to our office for anything. We popped in on some grade levels, and they said that, yep, they were catching the hang of it, but I know they really, really appreciated that day to be able to do that. So.
And so there's, as you know, you approve another one of those days, and we probably will move those forward until we feel like those are not needed, but those work days are essential. And as our upper elementary teachers also on that day do not have students, but they're working on literacy as well, and other things that they need to do in our new ELA curriculum, so that's been very helpful for them. So we appreciate that. Just other special events. We have the Valentine's Day dance at the barn was extremely successful. We had 300 participants this year. They've already offered and given us the barn again for next year. Went and visited the tumbling for our littlest ones this past week. That was very fun to see them all over in the Glenbrook gym. I know that the PTOs have been all over lately at every Culver's and Dairy Queen that they can find, doing some great things for that, so thanks for supporting that. The Booster Bash was this past weekend. I wasn't able to attend that, but I heard it was a great success, and there were a lot of people there. And Chili-rific was really a great success. And then in front of you tonight, you also have another opportunity if you would like to participate in the Green Bay. So Give Big Green Bay is happening right now, and it runs through tomorrow at noon. So this is one opportunity. So how this works is there's several nonprofits that get chosen to be part of Give Big Green Bay, and NUIA was one of them this year, and this features obviously youth apprenticeship, which is a big deal here in our district. So you can go online, you can take a look at all the different nonprofits that are there. There are several that touch our school district, you really can't make a bad choice when you're picking one of these. Or you can pick several and give a lower amount, just have fun with it and see all of the great things that are here in Brown County. I think that that's very important, and the different avenues that touch our kids in the school district. So just want to make sure you have that in front of you as well. And let you know that I'll be at a conference for leadership at the end of the month for 2 days. That's just here locally in Green Bay, so I'll be in touch with the district both of those days. Talk to you about PLC and RTI. We had our virtual session tonight for Aspiring Learning Leader program. So remember how that's run is for, we do one in-person session, and then a couple weeks later we get together, we have them reflect a little bit, and then we get with the group and we just do it virtually and have them talk. And I think sometimes the virtual conversations are just as deep as the ones that when we're in person. They have a lot of great questions. And so this last one we had was put on by Brooke and Janitra. So they're both in the assistant principal role or associate principal role, and they really talked through how it becomes just kind of your lifestyle. And I thought that was great. Had some great questions around how many hours a week do you work, and I just love the way Brooke answered that. She's like, if you start counting hours, it's probably just not the thing for you because, it's a lifestyle. And they really did a great job. They hit it out of the park. So that was done really well. I think that's all I have for you. Any questions for me? Did I miss anything that you want an update on that I didn't cover? I think you got it. Okay.
Got it, thank
All
you.
right.
All right, then we are going to start our marathon of field trips. So we're gonna start with Camp Unawaya, Fairview.
Hi, I'm Craig Pichkowski, and fifth grade teacher at Fairview. And I just wanted to share a little bit about our Camp Unawaya experience. It's been a tradition at Fairview to go. It is an opportunity that really can't be replaced. The fact that kids get to work as a team in this environment, in an outdoor setting, under the supervision of counselors, full-time counselors, leaves them with just a lifelong memory that I don't think can be replaced. We've been doing it for a very long time. Kids have been looking forward to this. I think once they hit Fairview, they're like, "Oh, we're going camping this year." So it has been something that I think they carry forward. Not only the memory of it, but of course the skills that they acquire in this. Like I said, the teamwork, the nature skills that we do orienteering, we do rock climbing, we do canoeing, fishing. It's an environment that, like I say, it's an amazing opportunity for them. One of my favorite things to do, honestly, and I think for them as well, is we have family style meals. And so we have waiters and waitresses, if you will, that help us serve the food. They clean, they are at the kitchen, and when they bring food back to the table and we're sitting in a circle and we're eating, we're passing food, I can't tell you, it's hard to replicate that. It brings a sense of family and joy to them that, like I said, it's an amazing opportunity. So yeah, we're just looking forward to hopefully going again.
Excellent. Any questions for Craig?
I'll make a motion to approve the fifth grade trip as presented to Unawaya.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
All right. PHS Chamber Choir to Port Washington.
Hi, I'm Patty Brown, and I'm hoping to take the kiddos this year it's called Acapocalypse. It will be the third year that we've done it, and it's a acapella festival. We have 3 acapella groups at the high school, and a mixed group, and then treble singers, and then bass clef singers, and one's called Acapellas, and then Des Can't Get Enough is our treble singers, and then chamber. And at Acapocalypse, they're called Just Be Natural. So it must be a play on words. The natural sign, if you don't know about music. But anyway, the first year we just took the chamber group came back with a lot that we learned, things that we could apply to future performances and so forth, and just leadership skills galore. It was a little bit of a bummer because almost all of them were seniors, and it was in April. So we just had their knowledge for just that little bit, and then they graduated. So the next year we decided to take our younger groups as well, and it turned out to be a great building experience for our groups. And of course, it's important because two of our groups, the Descant group and Acapellas, are student-led. So they basically get, I oversee them, but they're the ones doing the warm-ups. They're ones that teach the music. They're the ones that do everything with it. So I think it's a great thing for them to be able to see other a cappella groups. They get to see college a cappella on Friday, which is really fun. Then the next day they get to perform for each other, all the different groups that are there, and get critiqued by professionals in the field. And I don't know, Crosby's been there a couple of years. If it would be okay if he just spoke to it for a moment.
Sure.
Yeah. It was awesome. I really liked it. I think like what I really enjoyed was like the breakout sessions with like chamber and acapellas. That was just like working with the professionals and just really like, you know, like just getting able to, yeah, I don't know if this makes sense. It makes sense to me. But it was just like really cool to just like go. And it's also like Port Washington. Holy cow, what a school. But yeah, it was awesome. I'm bad at talking.
And I didn't warn him that I was going to do that to him, so sorry.
But I really enjoyed it. I think another cool thing was that all of the like colleges, they have booths, and you can like go up and go like, I'm gonna go to Madison. How do I get into this? And it's cool because then I mean it's networking, which is awesome. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And it's important too to see the other kids that are doing it, because it doesn't have to be somebody who's going to be a music major that can do it when they're in college. In fact, a lot of them are not. And we had one of the groups that's performing on Friday night is from UW-Madison, and we've had a former member that was in the group. Then they went to the national a cappella and competition and won a couple of years ago. So it's fun to see our alumni doing those types of things, and just continue to build on that. And Crosby's been a part of acapellas and chamber for, I think it's the bonding that you were looking at saying.
Yes,
and
that is. I was going to say synergy, but that's not the right word.
Synergy, actually, I think that you get the energy from each other and like working together, and they brought that back, and like the bonding time is very important to the kids.
So there's a cost to the trip. I do see that there's going to be fundraising and everything. Is there any issue with any of the students not being able to cover the cost?
If there are, nobody has talked to me about it in the talking about the trip. But if there is, then we have funds that we can help them out with.
Motion to approve the PHS Chamber Choir Destin Acapellas to Port Washington.
Second that.
A motion and a second. Any additional questions for Kathy? All those in favor?
Aye. While she's standing, she's advertising.
Oh, yes,
I did forget this. That it is our musical, started this past weekend of the high school, is still running this next weekend. So if you get a chance, Saturday or Sunday.
Yes, please. It is
still on.
We have such talented kids in so many different roles.
I can't wait to see it.
You must. It's a must see.
It's really cool.
It was fantastic. Thank you.
Motion carried. All right, Skills USA. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, so we have two state conferences. First one is for Skills USA, and we have, I have to clarify with Mr. Pitson if it's 10 or 12 students going, but they will be paid through the Skills USA account, so there is no cost to the students, but numerous categories. Our students that are going to be participating, you hopefully saw the memo from Mr. Pitson, but they'll showcase their skills and knowledge in a variety of competitions, including architectural, drafting, team engineering challenge, and 3D printing and design. And again, the trip will be paid for through the club funds. Where kids can go and compete and perform well. So.
And motion to approve the Skills USA to Madison.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Matt. And then PHS Student Council, is that you too?
Yes, yeah, and very similar. This is the state conference for them in Madison, again, in early April, and be a max of 12 students, not necessarily all officers, but I was looking at the itinerary, and ladies did a great job summarizing it in the description, but there's going to be keynote speakers, networking, and this is all about developing leadership, but the students will also have opportunities for competitions and public speaking, problem solving, speaking, writing, and sharing a scrapbook as well. So, and Crosby, had you gone previously?
I went last year. It was cool. I mean, it's a conference, but it's like fun. We like get there, and then immediately we go into like our competitions, is like, oh, we do a presentation. But it's really cool. You can win awards and such. But then like we break out into our sessions and whatever. And I remember we like voted for like the like president, vice president, and etc. for like our district, and that was cool. And it's just I don't know. I had a lot of fun. We did a like a breakout room. It was like Titanic themed. That was fun. We did not get out. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And for this one, there's a $75 per student cost, but between the student council account and the building budget, any kind of financial hardship would not be a barrier for any student. So.
Are you going this year, Crosby? We approve it?
I don't know. I might.
Pretty good.
I'll make a motion to approve the Madison field trip as presented.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We made it through the field trips. Mr. Sufka's up.
AGR reporting, we come to you twice a year, once after we test in the winter and then again early on in the summer after we're finished for the year. Just submitted a board for anybody that's new. It's AGR, it used to be SAGE. SAGE stood for Student Achievement Guarantee in Education, now we're Achievement Gap Reduction. Over the years, we've been very good about keeping our class sizes, kindergarten, first, second, and third, to a cap of 18-1. We are able to do that again this year as well. As part of that, we submit plans to DPI. That plan has been submitted. I usually try to keep Mark, Jenny, and Allie in the loop on when that has gone through. And again, that was submitted last week as well. A couple of years ago, Allie had asked me to prepare basically like a school board summary, which is a little bit easier to read than the one that gets submitted to DPI. So that one is included as well. Our district goal again this year was 100% of students will demonstrate growth in literacy and math. There is a behavior goal too that we have as a school and as a district. However, that's not reported for AGR. Their concern is reading and math. Tried to highlight quite a bit of green. You can take a look at where some of the falls were. In the past, we kind of did groupings, like percentiles, and yes, that does show growth from one group to the next. But if you look up on top, we actually ran the actual growth numbers and kind of discussing it and sharing with Brooke a little bit with her being new this year. They're like, okay, we'll ramp this up a little bit and include a little bit of extra data for DPI as it relates to the growth. So some nice trending shared with you guys last summer about AimsWeb being a brand new screener this year. So we're still learning on that as well. But feel like we're in a good place, lots of green, some stuff to celebrate. The reports that we get, we covered with like our coalition. We've covered them within our collaborative team meetings. Crystal and the LSTs, they've looked at data protocols and setting up data binders, really trying to make sure that we have faces with our students. Jenny and Allie talked about the day for those personalized reading plans. There's been Cox Campus, our 100-day plans, sharing information about Act 20 and reading, especially at our family engagement nights. Conferences, our second year of getting better at HMH. We are utilizing our SIT meetings, our LSTs are revamping different levels of support the whole time. Utilization of EIR aids, volunteers, getting used to the Ames web tools that are out there, how it shapes target time, groups, and really the fluency practice. There's a lot where you'll hear ORF, oral reading fluency. I've never seen as much fluency practice and progress monitoring taking place within our buildings. So all of those things we're hoping that we're going to continue to move more green.
Good work. Curtis, do you have specific plans in place for targeting continued growth, especially kind of at those lower levels, boost them up?
Yeah, I mean the students that are below the 25th percentile all have those PRPs and those personalized reading plans. Those are discussed with parents as well. That's weekly progress monitoring that goes on with notes being taken. Those were developed throughout the course of that day. With our collaborative team meetings that take place too, our learning support teachers are in there continually looking at real-time data to try to figure out which students might need tier 3 supports, so on and so forth. So the trend, I mean, when we looked at it, I mean, as far as like the growth, we talked a lot about third grade this year too, and just that we've had a couple of third grade teachers that are looking at skill groups, did some really nice work with Chrissy McCurd, our student center coach. And without being embarrassed, like they would tell you, like this is like they're learning how to be like really good reading teachers, and that's the stuff that they're pulling from Cox campus. So I mean, we're picking the really good parts of Act 20, but just like the foundational skills and stuff that we've seen kindergarten teachers do for years, you just didn't see it in third grade. But we have kids that are reading at some of those levels, so we have to be able to learn how to teach them at that level too. So. Target time groups have been really fluent this year too. I mean, when we started target time way back in the day, because I'm old, I mean, I used to have kids for like 2 months in a group, and like now, like we're lucky if we have them like every 2 weeks. We're switching kids out, and sometimes it's literacy, sometimes it's math, but it's on what the kids need. So, did that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So Curtis, with the Ames web stuff, is there any way, again, we can't speak of specific students, but like as a student moves through this, like if I have a student in the fall that's in the 0 to 10th, where did they move to if they moved, and how do you track them throughout the grades?
Well, and so the growth that we kind of settled on was that they needed to be growing at more than 50%, so 51% of the kids that are tested nationally. However, for example, you could have a student that, say, moved from the 10th percentile into the 20th percentile, and if we run on like that report, like the 51 percentile in the nation, while you could look at that and say that's growth, they moved from the 10th percentile to the 20th percentile, they still may not meet that 51%. For example, without saying any names, there's a student that belongs to a board member who went from the 99th percentile in the fall to the 99th percentile in the winter and did not make 51%. At the end of the day, are we happy that they're in the 99th percentile? You bet. But again, I would say that's a good problem to have, right? That's something, and anybody that's ever worked with enrichment type activities for students will tell you that sometimes it's far more challenging to plan enrichment type activities than it is to maybe work on some of those remedial skills. The data is it's interesting. Crystal and Becky Popek have been wonderful, and Lindsay is not here, but as far as AimsWeb, like I feel like I'm getting a lot better at maneuvering the tools. But it's very interesting when you see some of the names and you really start picking. But like I said, we've got some, I included like in my celebratory stuff, like with teachers, when we start adding up numbers of students who like maybe they didn't make 51% growth, but they landed at 45% growth. Like they're right in the ballpark. And then you start tracking how many of those kids are, then you start looking into how many of the kids that didn't make growth are above the 95th percentile. You can start picking. I feel like you can pick it apart any which way you want. We settled on that 51% nationally. That's what we're looking at. Was happy that there was some green there, that we're trending in the right direction. It certainly paints a picture that was shared. Like what you're looking at there, I actually made a separate one where I included 4th and 5th, and that was shared with our guiding coalition. That's on our agenda, and that agenda is goes out to everybody, our whole staff. So we are sharing that. I'm trying to be really upfront and transparent with all of the data.
So you guys are watching the movement of students up and down. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
So Curtis, when this tracks K through 3?
AGR does.
Yes. Okay. So
Curtis Sufka does not track.
then, right. No, this what we're talking about tonight. So then in your building, we keep those class sizes at 18 or less.
Yes.
And then when they go into 4th grade, do they balloon up?
Then we combine them. Yes.
Yep. So we lose a class usually.
Most of the time, yes. We would move from like 5 sections to 4 sections.
Do you see that growth come down in 4th grade then with these same students?
It's hard to say, and I'm not trying to work my way out of it. It's hard to. Can I do this like Crosby did? You guys know. No, it's hard. It's really hard to say, and I shared with you guys last summer too. Just sometimes the frustration about that our teachers have to go through, where I feel like the goalpost gets moved all the time. We try to run longitudinal data, but in stuff that I'm looking for with the state, like there's some people that are running that are talking, they don't like how the report card was redone, and like now again, it feels like every time we try to get some longitudinal data going, a big factor gets taken out of there, and it's really hard. I mean, it's a correlational study at that point, and you really can't draw a cause from it. So, I mean, I do know typically for IEPs, I do 1-3-5, AP does K-2-4. Typically in those 3rd grade IEPs, though, that is something that we mention a lot. Our special ed teachers, we mention that to our families to make sure that they understand that sometimes this 18-1, 16-1, 15-1 sometimes ratio, that's going to change next year. So one of the things that a lot of times we talk about during that IEP is making sure that the incoming teacher knows about a particular student and make sure that they keeps an eye on them, but also that self-advocacy piece too. Sometimes you have those kids that are really well behaved and quiet and just polite and sweet, and they have some things that they need to work on. You don't want those just kind of moving to the back of the room and disappearing in the hedges, so to speak, too. So yes, I mean it's a numbers game.
Okay.
And based on this, the state gives money. It fluctuates, so Mark kind of watches that to make sure that it's something that benefits us, because there could come a point where we're staffing it at those numbers, and the money that's coming in from the state, and I want to say it was about $2,000 per student, but it fluctuates around that. So every year we'll monitor that, and if it looks like it's not going to benefit us and we're going to be spending more to keep those class size numbers, then we have a conversation. But at this point, that hasn't happened. So we're still in the plus side, and I want to say the last time we had them run it, we were about 40 or 50,000 on the plus side of it being something to continue.
And I'd really like to test Brooke's knowledge and have her geek out a little bit about John Hattie. Because we all know what John Hattie would say about the effect size for a reduced classroom. And so John Hattie does the visible learning. Do you know what it is? Do you know what the effect size is?
The actual effect size? Gosh, no.
It's only
Sorry.
0.21.
Fail. What is it?
0.21 only. So it doesn't really even make the cut for being a huge influence, a huge factor for learning. It's a pretty small effect size. It's more about the teacher practice and how they work with a large group, whether they have 20 or 40 in the classroom. So I know that always was a piece that I was surprised at. So just I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, is that, we could get paralysis by analysis here, I feel like, but I have questions about that.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions about AGR?
Thank you, Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
I guess I do have one thing.
Oh,
Just quick. When we do this next time, can we have last year's data compared to this year's data? Like we can do this again?
I can. Yep, and quite honestly, I mean,
And that's just a kind of a side thing for personal, because we have a lot of things going on that's been presented. We've got early 4K numbers, we have all these programs, the Act 20 stuff, and I think what we need to maybe focus on a little bit is starting to tie everything together, because these early starters in reading and stuff are going to start moving into these grades, and I think we're going to need that data to tie it all together.
And you'll have Ames Web from this year.
I was gonna say,
right?
it's
And
not-
that's the thing is now
Yeah.
you're going to be concurrent. You'll have you'll have the
Yeah.
same data.
Oh,
moving
well,
forward.
thank you. Yeah, until like 3 years from now, and then we switch on something. I mean, I will say though that one of the things that like we praised them up and down, right? Was if you look at kindergarten, especially for reading, they're kind of green on everything. That the fact that we went from 16 students who were in that 10th percentile to only 3. That was really good, and that our first grade teachers are happy about that because they're like, all right, they're set on that solid foundation. That puts pressure on them. But they were also at 70% growth too. So, like I said, I think the biggest thing, Josh, is that it's about faces. When you got kids on these personalized reading plans, like you're in it with them, and the weekly progress monitoring, and just when Brooke and I are walking around. Number of kids that are in the hallway reading on their iPads, checking that fluency, and the kids that come up to us and tell us that they read 10 more words a minute than they did last week. They're really, really paying attention to a lot of that stuff. So, but yes, you let me know what you're looking for and put it together. Just know that, as Heidi said, it's not going to be apples to apples. It's going to be, apples to oranges to fast bridge to. Okay, whatever's next.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Stephanie.
So no hires this week, but Jenny and I have been working with the principals on staffing plan for next year. So hopefully in the next few months we'll start having some hires for you. It's a good thing we don't have hires in the middle of school year right now, but we do have some resignations for the end of the school year. Elian, I believe I'm saying her name right, at the middle school after 7 years, she is moving to Florida. So just changing life. Mackenzie. I'm not even going to try that one. Thank you, though. Third grade at Hillcrest. Just looking for a different change in life at this time as well. Leah Grant at the high school counselor. She is willing to stay on through the summer to help get the new counselor acclimated when we have somebody hired. So she will be leaving at the end of August. And then Barb Forsberg, middle school special education. And hers is a retirement.
Jenny, has our teacher retention improved in the last few years? Have we tracked it?
And
It seems like it has. I'm not following, but it seems like just in the monthly meetings we've had less and less movement.
It's that time of the year now that as people are making
For resignation.
their decisions,
Right.
And interesting, because I think at one last meeting, most of these are because of a boyfriend or a spouse. Like Mackenzie, I tried to pair up with one of my sons to keep her in the area, but she's moving by the boyfriend.
It just seems like we've had less turnover in the last couple of years. It seems like the turnover's been less.
Strategy.
That is a new
I
retention
tried.
strategy. We'll take it.
Hopefully you're keeping track of that though.
Yeah, I appreciate the efforts around retention, though. I know that you guys have put some focus on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second that.
A motion and a second. Any questions for Stephanie? All's in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. January budget. Are we just smiling and nodding at this one? Or?
You were supposed to ask Mark questions before he left.
Yeah. Steve sent some over, and we got some quick answers today. But anything you want to talk about?
No, I did share with Mark that I thought the presentation he gave in our January meeting was very valuable. Like this budget report that we see with the different funds is good, but I really like the consolidated view where we can just take one look at a screen and say, all right, we're tracking, here's what we expect to finish, and then if we want to dig in, we can dig in. So when he gets back, him and I will probably have a conversation about that, like what his thoughts are the next time that he does that. We did agree quarterly, right? So I'm not asking him for anything now. So I don't know when he's going to do it again. So we can all look to hear from him on that. So that was it. Oh, in July, you said July, right? I did ask a question about the referendum spending too. Where are we at with the projects and the forecast? And in July-ish, we should expect to have our next update on that from Mark or C.D. Smith.
Because I think June is still kind of crazy board meetings, so we thought we would, July usually seems to like kind of quiet down a little bit.
All right, then we'll move on. Nothing to approve there. here we go with policies.
Okay, so I think everybody should go in the board docs. The first section in that was the policies that you just need to know that I approved through technical corrections. And again, technical corrections are just crossing out, maybe changing it from Board of Education to the board, capitalizing, those sorts of things. So truly just technical corrections. The next section, actually, I want to talk about the section called immigration, and that's actually the bottom one. So the policies for you on immigration, I'm starting with that grouping first because there's 5 policies within that, and you're not going to see them listed in here because they're all active already and you've already approved them. 4 of them are active already and only one was just naturally in this update. And that all came about before any of the executive orders or anything was happening at the federal level. So if you have, as we're going through tonight, I just wanted to let you know that the one that is up for approval, because we will talk about it as we go through, is the one that's up for an update is 7440. So when we get to that one, I'll just remind you about that one. But the other 5540, 8330, and 9150, I guess there were only 4 of them. They're already active and you've already accepted those, so you won't see them anywhere else here this evening because they're already in our template. And those were just pertaining to 5540 was about investigations involving law enforcement. We have that policy in place. The facility security, we will go ahead and do an update on tonight. Nothing is specific to immigration. I want that to be clear to you. It's not, those words have not been written within policy. These policies, the way things are worded the way they're worded right now, protect us from having to do anything different than what we're already doing. So we're already in line with what we need to do at this point in time. 8330 is about student records, and 9150 is about school visitors. The school visitor policy would be the one that would maybe be one that you may say, or you've heard controversy on, or people have been asking about. What does that mean if ICE would come into a building? What would happen if we would have? How does that work? What have you been instructed to do? So we will have. Eventually, not as of yet, because I believe that everyone is going to align by what they should, because right now we already have the policy in place that if someone would come, they would have to show a judicial warrant, and then whoever is at the front door, they would have to raptor, they would go and get their supervisor, which would be one of our building principals, and we already have that policy and that procedure in place. So really, no matter if the word immigration is in any of these or not, we're already able to operate under any kind of visitor coming to our buildings and what we would need to do. So that's, you don't have to do anything else with that tonight, but we wanted you to know what those policies were about. And then the other section, the largest section, of course, is 34-1. But then if we go up into the policies for the board, those are the EDGAR policies, and those policies are all wrapped around federal grants that come into the district and the regulations that are around those. So EDGAR, another acronym, it is a city here in Wisconsin, but this actually means the Education Department General Administrative Regulations. So, and again, those are all how the federal grants are managed. So those policies, since we have 2 of our central office team members here, and as you know, as we work through policy, we all kind of take our department and our area and we work through those. So Mark is gone tonight, so if something comes up that I cannot answer or this team can't answer for you, we will have to pull that out, and Julie is ill tonight too, so if something comes up within the student service policy and I can't answer that for you that sufficiently tonight, we'll have to pull that from the batch as well. Okay, everyone understand that? All right, well with that then, Jennifer, wherever you want to start. You want to start in 34-1 or?
Yeah, let's just start in 34-1.
Okay.
Who wants to go through their list first?
I have a short list.
Go ahead.
2416, student privacy and parental access to information. I just thought that for the parents to be contacted, it says, let me see where it says it, a reasonable amount of time. I think we should put something on there to say how long that time is, whether it's a week. Let's see where that is.
Which one?
Parents
It's
right
in the
to
green
inspect
section.
surveys.
The parent will have access to the
Uh,
instrument within a reasonable amount.
Yep, the parent will have access to the instrument within a reasonable period of time. I think we should put a week, 7 days, because reasonable to me might be a day, that administrator might be a week. I think that we should put a specific time. I would think a week, 7 days would be reasonable. I don't know,
How much
how
time do
early
you
do
guys
you get
need?
the surveys? Jenny, how early do they get the surveys?
Well, it depends, like youth risk assessment, you know, that's not our department, that's student services, so, but they do get that information out and they do, a letter goes out to every parent that that's going to happen and, I
We
would
put
think
7
it's a
days on
good
there.
month or so that they have that ability to notify them. That's the only survey that I can think of that.
So what would you suggest be a reasonable time if we put a time on that policy?
Keep in mind though, it's saying upon request. So I don't think a week is necessary. If I make a request, right, 24 or 48 hours, I mean, assuming it's on a Friday, that's my thought. So if it's an interaction that's taking place, it's not just saying, we're gonna say 7 to 14 days, boom. Somebody has to make a request to see it, then it should be relatively quick, you'd think.
Okay.
My opinion.
You know, and like I look at C on here, you know, so every one of our health teachers shares the letter out about the human growth and development, or the nurses, and the principals share that out. And in there it says that parents have the right to inspect and see the information that's being shared. And at that point, we're able to share it immediately because it's in our Embark, or it also is in Canvas if it's, you know, for a high school student. So they have access to it right away. And the teacher just has to say, here, and send them the link.
So you want 2 business days then? If it's gonna be a direct email to a staff member, 2 business days as parents, we can expect to get it back? Or what's reasonable for you guys if we put a time on here? Do you guys do any of this? We have some principals in here, help us out, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's, what's hard is I understand exactly what you're saying, Dennis, as far as what does that mean, reasonable amount of time. You say 2 days and that staff member's out sick, they receive it and they are out sick and it doesn't happen within 2 days. So you're kind of like both sides of that. I would say that when it's something like the examples that Jenny had shared with like a curriculum matter, it's all, you know, it's on receipt of, you know, getting it because you just send them the link to Embark. For the YRBS, we always invite people in. We have hard copies in the office, so it's when they can come into.
So tell us the time.
What do you think?
I don't.
Is it necessary to put a time? Do you think it's necessary to put a time?
We haven't run into it
No.
being an issue in the past,
And I'm
so I
fine
don't
with
think
that.
there
Then
needs
you're
to be
okay?
a time.
I'm fine with that.
And I can say personally as a parent, when they sent out the HUD one, and I asked to see the full curriculum and you know
Okay.
all the information, I got it within the same day.
Yeah.
I
So
just
I
thought
can
that was
say-
vague. So the other one is policy 4124, and it's kind of a similar, it's a new policy. And it says, prior to the conclusion of each school year, support staff employed in instructional year positions shall be notified in writing of reasonable assurance of continuity. I was thinking, how can they have a time they can count on for that? A certain time frame where the teachers know they're going to be coming back next year, or is that run right up to the end of the school year?
I know we give letters already. I don't know the time period that we do it, but it's not like the last day of school or
So there's
anything.
a generally
When do
Regular-
contracts
regular
normally
time.
go out? Here.
Well, teachers' contracts come out in,
this is separate from the
Yeah.
contracts. This
Yeah.
is just
Okay.
so
staff.
the staff don't have a contract, but they
Oh,
are
that's
told
right, that's sports.
that they're gonna be.
So is there a time we could set, like, is there a normal time you do it that we could put in the policy, or is it just, they just sit there and wait until they hope to get retired for the next year?
Or can we blanket it and say before the end of the school year?
It kind of says,
Or does
It
it
says
kinda
prior to
says
the
that.
conclusion of each
Yeah,
school
and
year.
this was
Okay.
modified to be more consistent with state statute, that's why this has come up. So,
I was just thinking the staff would be, knows, hey, a week or two before the year's over, I'm gonna know, as opposed to waiting until,
Well, they're all at will, right? right? I mean,
Yeah.
so even if you say you are, you could
But
still
it'd be nice
say
to know.
Yeah.
That's all I thought.
that you aren't.
Are you good?
Yeah, if we don't want to put some on there, I just thought we could put, I don't know when they normally do it, a couple weeks before, a month prior, or is it
And
something we
that's
even?
kind of new. I think Ally Trust put that
It's
in
a new
place
policy,
because
so
I don't
that's
think
why
it
I looked at
happened
it.
before.
Something to consider.
Take the word reasonable out. I mean, again, they're all at-will employees, so we
Right.
can give them assurance that they have a job, right?
That's all I was thinking, it'd be nice to know
Yeah.
sooner.
The word reasonable
At least
doesn't
they
make
know when
sense to
they'll
me
be.
either there.
But that's all I had.
Last year, it looks like they were sent out early May.
Okay.
So before the end of the year.
That's all I had on my list.
All right, I can go next. I have a couple. 8395 student mental and physical health services. That policy adds a lot of ambiguity, in my opinion, around physical health services. We have so many policies, and I forwarded you guys the email from Julie Harris around this. We have so many policies that cover our nursing services: emergency nursing services, management of illness, accidental injury, administration of medication, and emergency care. We just did that policy. And now this policy, in the overview, I'll just read it. In the overview, it talks about this policy is updated to better reflect the option for arrangements for on-site health services provided by outside agencies, either in person or virtually. When we go to approve these policies, I want us to vote on this one separately. I don't like that. I don't think it's necessary for us to just open this up like that. I think if there's outside agencies that we want to work with that can come to the board specifically to talk about specific health services, physical health services that we want to possibly look at, but just blanket opening this up for I think at one point in this policy it says anything within the nurse's scope or license. I just don't think I don't like that one. So I want to vote on that one separately. And I would.
Is there anything you want us to look back on or change, or do you or is there anything? I mean, this would even be, Bernadette or they would have no problem coming, like if you wanted to speak with them to have more clarity around it. We can certainly pull it out, but you can vote on it separately. But if you need more clarity around it, to have a better understanding as to what some of these things are or concerns that you have, let me know that as well.
Yeah, well, and I sent an email last week about it and didn't get a response till this morning. So I just don't understand what this opens us up to that we don't already have in policies. Like, we already have so many policies around health stuff, and now we just add this. It just feels very ambiguous to me, and
well, maybe that's just a question for Neola. I mean, and sometimes, you do have to remember that sometimes we layer policy upon policy upon policy, and sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we just can say, well, that's covered here and it's covered here. Do we really want this policy? So we may just not need this policy.
Right, and that's what it says. It says it's recommended, but not
recommended,
required.
but it's not required.
And I feel like we have it covered so many other places that we just.
Well, let me ask that question. Where else is this policy covered in other policies, and can you tell us what they are? Because Neola can tell us that quickly.
Well, and that's what Julie's response covers, says that exact thing, that we have all of the, because I said, what does this cover? And she said, well, it's all covered in these policies. Well, great, then it's all covered in these policies. Let's just leave that policy alone then.
Okay.
We just don't need to make it that gray. I think if there's something outside of those policies that she cites in her email, then bring it back to the board and we'll talk about it.
All right, that sounds good.
And
the other one I have.
I just have a quick question on it. So in talking about this, it had struck out Prevea because that's not necessarily a partnership that we have anymore. Are there specific licensed agencies that we do partner with that come in already?
Like a doctor on record, and like we have to have that, obviously. We don't necessarily have to partner specifically with one agency anymore, but we do have to have a medical a doctor on record for the school district who does approve like medical plans and things like that we have to run by them.
I believe we do still partner with Prevea. I think this is just making it more broad, so it doesn't just have to be Prevea.
And that could be at the discretion of families
Right.
as well,
Mhm.
right? Okay, I just wanted to be mindful of maybe not pigeonholing us to one agency or facility.
All right, the other one I had, you guys probably saw the emails around that as well, 2464. Just some questions for you, Jenny. So the email says, I didn't include the policy revisions in this batch for tonight, but the green sections are the recommended changes. So if we approve this, we go to that new model, right? Our current 2464 is very short,
Yep.
and this new 2464 that's what we would be going to.
Yep, so according to the overview, it was to get alignment with the state statute.
Yep.
So I think that came into the bottom. And then they said that they worked with the Wisconsin Association of Talented and Gifted. So that's why, and the DPI, that's why these other changes in green were put in. They weren't necessarily from us. They were their changes.
So can you tell us how you see this changing here?
Actually, and I think that's why I shared the handbook as well, because really what's in here is what already was in our handbook that we were using or in our administrative guidelines. So a lot of like how we identify, that wasn't in the old policy, but now they talk about identification and the 5 categories or the 5 domains that kids might be identified for advanced learners. So that's in our handbook. They talk about the screening, and I didn't even take it as an option because we use all of our universal screening. We use our state assessments, parent recommendation or parent nomination, teacher nomination. All of those things go into play for a kid when they are within these 5 domains. So same thing with instruction. Very similar to response to intervention or response to instruction really is this as well. So I think what is on our parent or where parents can access on our website, it has that pyramid as well. So same principle that 80-85% of your kids are tier 1. There's that tier 2, and so whether it's target time or go time or skills time at the K-8 level, that's kind of where that 15% happens. So some of our kids are receiving an intervention, some of our kids are receiving extension and enrichment, and then you have kind of for those 5 domains, that 1 to 5%. And so then there might be a DEP, which is a differentiated education plan. And in the handbook, it really lays that out for our teachers and for our learning support teachers about that.
So are we utilizing this in our buildings pretty regularly? If we're being honest, do you have kids on these DEPs?
Yes, we have some. Not every kid will be on a DEP, but there'll be differentiation. There'll be tier 2 or tier 3. And then when you get to the high school level, it's not a target time. It's not a skills time. It's I'm going to take an advanced class. I'm going to do dual credit, or early college credit program. Start college now. Our St. Norbert college classes. So that's kind of how then our advanced learners are able to accelerate their learning as well.
So, and you cite the LSTs, and I'm not going to put the one in the room on the hot seat, but I have a hard time believing they have the capacity to take much of this on, considering what we're expecting from them to catch people up, right? Like that it's just not going to happen because their focus is on the kids who are maybe falling behind. Do we have any plans to be able to gain some capacity there, or like how do we do this? I mean, if we have these kids on these plans, other than go time, target time, that kind of stuff, what else are we doing? Because LSTs aren't the answer, right? It's just not feasible.
Yeah, and I didn't get into how this all came about. There used to be in the district like 1.5 people who traveled between all 7 buildings to provide services to advanced learners. So the person before I got into this role kind of came together with the principals and was like, this isn't working either, because you can't just be in a building for an hour once a week to do that. And so really kind of blew up that model. And then the model was taking, and at that time it was called PEAK. I don't exactly remember what it all stood for, but it was PEAK, was the advanced learners. So they took that 1.5 positions. They took Title I, and then with other funds, developed the learning support teacher position. And so, the job description, the responsibilities is you're responsible for out-of-sync learners. And out-of-sync learners are the struggling kids as well as the advanced learners. Would we say that can be very difficult? Yes, but when I was principal at Hillcrest, our learning support teacher not only was working with the struggling learners, like she even was pulling 4 or 5 kids who were taking basically 6th grade math and then might be accelerated when they got to the middle school into the next course. In some cases, depending on the student, I know we bused a Illinois student, or her parents would drop her off. No, how did that go? She busted in the morning to the middle school, took their math class, and then the parents were responsible to getting her back to the building. So, we just look at different ways. So it doesn't always fall on the learning support teacher to meet the student's need. Sometimes it's them working with the classroom teacher on, okay, how are we going to differentiate the instruction for this group of students and what they need. So there's a variety of ways. But would it be great to have more people? Yes, but I don't know how we afford them.
I get it. I hope we just continue to explore what we can do for those learners, especially as we see it all laid out in our policies now as well. I know that it's no small feat for any of you, but important stuff too to continue to grow those students. We're always trying to grow the students to catch them up, but those students are just as important. So those were my 2 tonight.
I just kind of want to piggyback off of what you're saying too. I don't know how we get creative with this, and I know Act 20 also kind of throws that wrench into things and, where our focus is. But, like Curtis subtly said, when you have a student at the 99 percentile, do I think that she had significant growth? Not really. Target time is great for her, but again, is it the significant growth that I know she could get if she was challenged more? So I don't know what we can think about with that, but I think that you guys are great collaborative team, and I know we can get creative and think of something. So I hope
they're gritting their teeth right now.
I know. I'm sorry. No pressure.
A little bit of pressure.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of pressure. The one thing I'm going to say, and this is just kind of again, there might not be resources for it. Did you ask? Mm-hmm. That's the only thing, and I just
staffing's coming up.
Yeah, the one thing I guess I see here, and you think about referendums and things that go through and all this stuff, and I just, if we don't highlight this stuff, kids are getting disinterested, and it seems like in the district there is a lot of focus on advanced learning at high levels, AP courses, advanced courses, things like that. I can see just from what I view and see these kids, and some of these you're losing them by not investing earlier on. And I would love to see, I would rather see people requesting and see these requests for this stuff, and then you're getting denied so it goes in front of everybody's eyes, than just saying we don't have the resources or there's not the resources. There may not be. Money's tight everywhere. But I think parents and the public would like to see more action on this, even if it is, denied or not possible.
Okay,
You guys good?
Yeah, we're good.
I got just a
Do
few.
you have anything?
I have. Oh no, not
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so I'll lump 1130, 3230, and 4230 together. I have provided some language in the past around letter F, the last statement highlighted in green, the definition of gift does not include travel and registration expense to job-related professional learnings. I don't think that's clear enough. So I think we need to revisit that one, dig up the information that I had forwarded, and I don't know if Jeff gave this stuff back to us, but I thought there was going to be some additional language added into that policy to make it clear for everybody as to what we want to do with that area.
Steve, can I just ask you what are you objecting to? What are you looking for, just so that we know for consideration?
Well, I'm in full support of professional learnings. I don't know that it just needs to be an open checkbook for them to be paid for outside of the district, whether it be by a vendor, whoever. We should, as a district, if we support it, then we should be looking at paying for it. But again, I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I don't know. There's things that probably shouldn't take place, but there's things that should take place. I just don't think this gives us the clarity we need. This just opens the door of saying, well, if it's professional learning, then anything goes. And I don't think that's appropriate.
Do you have a suggestion?
I sent it in. I'd have to dig it up. I don't have it with me right now.
I don't think that I've seen it, so I'm curious on what your recommendation
I can dig it up
would
and
be.
send it to everybody on what I sent up. But this, again, for me personally, it just doesn't give the clarity that we need for everybody involved. So I would ask that we sit on those. I mean, they've been kind of sitting there for a while. 2210. So Jenny, when we talk about curriculum development, how are we defining curriculum? Is it the things we use in the classroom? Is it the things that we bring into the class from outside? Like, is it the more structured stuff? Is it some unstructured stuff? Or is it everything that the teachers would use to educate our kids?
So under letter C, it says the board defines curriculum as the content and performance standards and benchmarks that are to be taught, learned, and assessed as the appropriate grade level for grade 12.
So this is the formal structure of the curriculum, correct? Not necessarily all of the things that plug into it?
No, those would be, I think you're maybe getting at resources.
Yeah. So that's a different policy?
Yeah, I believe that is a different one that is already in the mix. I don't know which one, but
all right, I'll have to
it's
pull that
probably
one
in
up too.
2001.
My question around that is some of the books that get introduced into our children's learning experience, is that considered part of the curriculum or is that a resource? That'd be a resource?
That's a resource.
And the board is not approving those resources though, right? That's done separately?
Well, I bring textbooks and digital resources to you in July on the adopted ones. So like you get what's 6th grade, what the main, so like if it's HMH into reading or whatever it might be, that's into literature, or math is stepping stones or a goal. So you get that information, and that's what we ask for approval on.
But so if teachers are using books in our library as part of the curriculum that our students are learning, how does that fit into the equation?
Well, the library would be a different, so that's library selection.
Okay.
And a different policy, but then there is also a curriculum one. I'd have to look at it.
Okay, so the library is separate from this one then?
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, are you talking like at a high school level, like when like English reads The Great Gatsby? Is that what you're talking about as an example?
I wish that was the books I was talking about, but sure, we could call it that, yeah. Yeah, so if a teacher brings a book, like gives the kids a selection of books to choose from, I wanted to understand if that was part of the curriculum in this policy or if that was separate. Jenny gave me what I needed. Okay. That is separate from this policy.
Yeah, like 2230 gets into a little bit. They call it curriculum course guides in the policy. We probably call them curriculum maps, and so that's what we include in BARC.
Okay.
And so then like this gets at the learning outcomes, knowledge and skills that the kids would need, learning targets and activities. And then letter D is appropriate materials, technology, and resources. So that is what's included. And then F is a list of supplemental materials for the guidance of the teacher. But there still is another one that is about resource selection, if I remember right.
I can dig it up. That's not for tonight's discussion. I just want to understand the connection. Policy 2266, I know there's some revisions to it, and I'm just wondering if the revision under introduction, where in parentheses it has including sexual orientation or gender identity, is that going to remain, or is that going to be stricken as well as part of all the other changes that have been coming down?
We have not been advised to strike that at this time. We're still in the Seventh
Okay.
Circuit. We're still in Wisconsin. So at this time, it will remain, and we'll see how things move forward from there. But as you saw, 2264, we're asking to be rescinded, and 2266, we've just been given notification today of some tweaks in training that we'll have to work through, and I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
She's on boatloads of calls about the
Oh,
executive
yeah,
order,
yeah, yeah.
so it's coming, it's
Yeah.
just.
Do you think it's gonna be a lot of I know we talked about it briefly.
No,
I mean,
I don't think-
so
I don't think
because
it'll be.
everybody was kind of trained on what's back. Okay. That's it on that one. 3281. This is on personal property of staff members, where it says administrators. The last statement: administrators are authorized to direct employees to remove inappropriate personal property from district premises. This kind of goes along with the reasonable word. Who deems what's inappropriate? Like,
Yeah, well, we questioned the word inappropriate as well when we were with Tim, and this really gets to more of the things like microwaves, essential oil burners, things that could cause allergies, those sorts of things from
Okay.
individual classrooms. That's kind of what this is. And if it's a personal piece of furniture that should not be part of the classroom, then we've asked staff to take it home. And Tim really didn't have an answer as to what inappropriate was either. Jenny, do you remember anything? We all thought it was an odd choice of words, but I guess he said, well, I guess it's not the appropriate whatever to have in the classroom.
so we'll be consistent throughout the entire district on how we apply the word inappropriate. Okay. 5212. I noticed at the end, in the middle, the policy violation around the use of, I'll just say, tobacco products on school property it's all stricken. So I'm just wondering.
5512.
5512, yeah.
I'm sorry, 55. What did I say?
5212.
Sorry, 5512. If that's all being stricken, again, maybe I missed something. I can't find any consequences within the policy anymore with that all being gone.
Let me look in the overview a minute and see what that changed. It just may be covered somewhere else is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I tried to dig it up and I just could not find it. And I only have one more after that, so everybody can relax.
We're relaxed.
Yeah, Johnny, do you remember? I don't know if 5512 must have been something very okay.
Well, I'm wondering if it was a mistake because it's still green.
Because both of them are, so for the response to policy violations, you could pick one or the other, and both of them are stricken. So
Yeah, and they're green. That's kind of why I flagged it.
So they were added as potential options, and
We didn't choose either.
we chose.
Because we just don't need the kids to find this policy. But
I think it was optional to select those. I think that's why we didn't do it.
And we probably didn't select them because we have administrative guidelines, and within the handbook, it's probably detailed out every piece. Remember, if we've got something in the handbook, we don't necessarily have it detailed in policy or vice versa. I can check on it.
yeah, if we could, or can we reference, if that's where we're going to put it, can we just reference the handbook?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I like that idea.
And then the last one is actually near and dear to me. Student technology acceptable use and safety. So this had nothing to do with my day in the life of a student or eyes of the student. But what do we, and I know Tina and Amy are not here, but what are we doing to block the student use of VPN to circumvent our security?
Tell me the policy number again.
7540.03. So here we lay out kind of what we allow and don't allow and acceptable use, but I'm pretty confident that students are able to use VPN on their personal devices to circumvent our security on our network.
Jenny, do you have any?
This I believe just was the E-rate one, but then we also had the Google, which was in a different one. So
And I have information.
I don't remember the conversation, but I think they have it pretty locked down with So,
I'll talk to Amy and Tina. So, all right, so that's not in this one. It's probably part of the acceptable use, which is also referenced in here as well.
I mean, I use a VPN. I don't know if that's like.
So does my son and all of his friends, yeah. So they're able to get to Facebook and all those things that we traditionally would not allow to take place on our school network. But there are ways to inhibit that, so they cannot use a VPN to conduct things that we would generally not allow.
Aren't some of them blocked though?
yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
I think so.
It's just that that a new VPN, to get around that VPN comes
Yeah.
out. It's like something that's really hard to control.
I know that when a kid has circumvented it, they've been able then to block that. But then, you know what happens then,
Another way.
2 weeks later, they figure out a different way. So I know I've heard of stories of this is now blocked and
Yeah, I'll talk to Tina and Amy outside of this. Other than that, I'm done. Thank you.
I forwarded the email from Steve around that policy, so let's just talk about it. You guys should all have it in your email around the verbiage he was looking for, around those policies.
Are we on the technology policy?
Nope, we are on.
The
what number is it?
1130, 3230, and 4230 all have the same
Oh, gotcha.
language.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have so many requirements on our staff for continued education that if we don't allow them to take free continued education, it's gonna cost us a fortune.
I see that side of the argument as well. I'm just reading my notes. I don't remember what I said.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about gifts, I understand gifts. I travel for work too, that's not a gift. And that's how I look at what they're doing, and when I go to this stuff with them, it's not a vacation.
like, I would say we've even had staff members apply on Donors Choose to be able to go to a conference. Or through PACE, they've applied and gotten a scholarship so that they could go to get your teach on, and you know, so.
Well, who's going to regulate it? Like, who's going to make sure that whoever accepts this, not a gift, is in alignment with state law and policy? Because not everybody might know.
Most times you have to sign off, so like if it's HMH and they send you something, they basically have an agreement that you're signing off and that you're ensuring that you're following what state law is and that you're not abusing it if they are sponsoring part of the trip or all of the trip.
So you are individually signing off, you're saying?
No, it would, or they ask for your supervisor, whoever supervises, or your, principal of the building or head of your department.
So should we sign off on yours and that would close the gap then, or like you sign off on all of theirs and I just know that we require so much continued education, and I can't imagine us taking those expenses on unless we're gonna have them do not meaningful continued ed because it's cheap. But I think that some of the opportunities they get brings a lot of benefit to our district. And when I go to these conferences, like Heidi talked about, we are worlds ahead of a lot of school districts and the things we're doing. And I don't want this control measure to inhibit that growth that we continue to see. I understand your concerns around it, but other gifts, absolutely, I'm with you. But this continued ed, conferences, travel for that kind of stuff, I see the value supersedes the risk in my mind for them to get their continued ed. I don't.
Did legal weigh in on this? I mean, because there are some
They
state
did.
laws. Okay.
They feel that, and that this was the work that was done here for definition was done with the Neola consultant. But I guess when you think about there isn't a time where we have gone off and done learning that we aren't here in front of you, either presenting it, regurgitating it back to you, sharing how it went, or implementing something that we felt was of value that came from that. And I'll just brag about our district and our administrative team and our teachers. We are asked often to present, share. it happens often. It doesn't often happen that we're having to travel out of state to do it, but it's happening enough that, you know, we do a good job. And it's important for us to share our learning too, because here in this region, we want people to be doing the same work. You know, it's not just the importance of the students that go to school here in Pulaski Community School District, it's the importance of all of the kids here in this area, so that we're really building great community members and people want to stay in this area and raise their families and be part of this. So,
Well, I think the compromise can be what Jen suggested. I mean, again, the goal is to avoid a conflict of interest, right?
Right.
Or the perception that the public may have that we're taking favors from people we're buying things from, right? So maybe the compromise is, I mean, Allison, you are responsible for everybody in the district, but if you, again, this isn't to create more red tape or obstacle, it's to make sure that we all can support the perception, right? That could be drawn, that if you're invited somewhere and it would be somebody that we do business with, that you just come to the board and say, this is what I'm gonna do. You guys okay with it? Done. And everybody's aware and like we can support it. Because again, I understand the value of professional learning. It's important, right? In order to stay current and also share what we're doing helps other people. So this is not to inhibit. This is really to just make sure we have controls in place to protect ourselves and all of you.
that would be for you guys to decide. That's
Well, one thing to remember too is we do have it as a policy, so if somebody does come to us saying this is a conflict of interest, we look into it. So if it's going against our policy, yes, it's gonna be a conflict of interest, then we're gonna do something on it. It just helps define that professional development might not necessarily be a conflict of interest. It could be if you're using it for your own advantage and buying things from a certain company, but we look into every conflict of interest. So it helps all around to cover our bases.
Yeah, and this would be in alignment with some other districts too as well. We had that conversation. So
I just,
Which part? What do you?
the part where the school board may approve something like that.
What would that be, Allison? Like, what is the scope of that? Like, how many things do you actually go to in the course of a year that would make eyebrows raise?
maybe one thing a year.
So would this, I mean, just be honest with us, is this gonna be painful for you to do?
No, I don't think so, but no, it's not gonna be painful. I already inform you.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying to you, what you really need to think about is this about me informing you or you having to approve it? And then it's going to be painful for me if I'm going to have to stand before you and you're going to question every little detail of what we're going to do. That's going to be painful, just because it's going to
I wouldn't have
feel
told
like,
me that. No, I'm kidding.
just because it's going
Yeah.
to feel like you don't trust me.
I don't think that's what it needs to be. I
So
think just,
if it's informing you and saying, hey, I want you to know that I'm part of the HMH Leadership Council. HMH and several companies provide this opportunity for us every year. I attend 3 virtual meetings, and then in the spring, their last meeting is held in Boston. I'm going to be attending that in May. As long as you're not going to, make me feel like I'm nothing, then no, it's not going to be painful for me at all.
So that comes to us like that, and no matter what, we're still going to approve the curriculum. The board is still going to approve the curriculum, right? So it comes.
I also think too, like you got to give the board a little bit of a benefit of the doubt on this one. Like we should be able to connect the dots with this seems like a favor, and now we're getting asked to purchase curriculum and things like that. I just think that we're dwelling on this and digging on this, and I mean anybody who's ever worked anywhere and got offered a trip to go for work, like honestly you just take it because you want to do something different for 3 days where you can maybe learn something. I mean I think there's just a lot of hassle with this, so you need to just drop this.
I think that it's very important that you're informed when I go out of state. I will say that. I think that it's important for you to know that when I go to a national conference or I'm asked to go someplace that would not be here in Wisconsin, that it's important for you to know that. And I've never done that without you knowing where I'm at, what we're doing, and like I said, we always bring information back for you. probably sometimes your eyes are crossing because we're all excited about it and geeking out on the educational piece, and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go again, right? But so I don't think that should ever be a worry in your mind. And right now, I'm just nervous to even eat a cookie that I get for free. So I'll be honest with you, that's how I feel right now. Right now, I feel like, ugh. I better not, because I don't know if I'm gonna have a speculation upon me or not. So, and it doesn't need to be that way.
No, I think that's a little ridiculous.
So, you asked my honest.
No, that's
You wanted my
that's helpful.
feelings, and I
No,
gave them to you.
I appreciate that.
So if you go out to Boston in the spring, a month or two before that, why don't we just have it on the superintendent's update and give us a little say, I'm going, and
Yeah, you bet.
it's on the record. I think that'd be great.
You got it.
Good.
Simple.
Got it.
All right. All right.
I have one other policy.
I didn't even get mine yet.
Sorry, Josh, do you have some? Do you want to?
I just have a
Go
question
ahead.
about one. Let me pop this up here. 5113, adding language in about interdistrict open enrollment and IEPs. So if we have already determined that there's no space, we're not going to accept anybody. Why are we using resources and time to review IEPs of kids that we're not going to take into our district and to know whether we're going to have services or not? Well, it doesn't say we don't have a choice. I'm just...
I think the way he explained it to us was that, and then we even checked with you, Dana, and you said that this does automatically happen, right? Because Julie wasn't in the room at this time, and then she came in right when we were discussing this one.
An open enrollment application comes in and they indicate that there's an IEP, I request the IEP from the other school. I don't know if Julie reviews it or.
She said she does.
Okay,
'cause
so
we did
I
ask for
request
that.
it every time.
Okay, so this is just adding language to something we do already. Okay, all right. That's all the questions I have at that. No.
The wellness. What?
That's the same one.
What is it?
8510.
8510. What does on a regular basis mean? Why was that added in?
Because they felt like when at the elementary principal meeting, when we came back after this one was approved, they said on occasion it does happen, and I believe the word that was in there was never can you use recess or does a student stay in as a reward or a punishment. So they felt on a regular basis was that it's not going to happen all the time, but it might happen once. So their point was it won't happen on a regular basis.
Is this usually student dependent, or is it
What was that?
is it usually student dependent, or is it classroom dependent?
I would say it's student dependent.
So,
Right? Anything, because elementary principals, you guys were the ones who asked
To
me
be
to make
honest,
sure
I mean,
Tim
so
put it
we
in
were
the batch.
looking, it's one of those, there's policies for everything, and then looking through it, I mean, if I'm calling a parent and there's a dust up on the playground between two boys, in the 14 years that I've been here, and I'm blessed to work with amazing parents, I've never had a parent go, I think they should go right back out on that playground tomorrow. Like, the conversation is, I mean, we need to talk about how to play safe on the playground, how to resolve, and that the natural time for that to take place would be during their recess. The weird part is at an elementary level, especially now with the weather, they would rather you take away, if you say, do you want me to take away your recess or lunch with friends? They will pick recess every time. They love talking to their friends down at the lunch tables. But we've tried to, at least here, and I won't speak for the other schools, if it's something that happens in the cafeteria, we'd like to address that around that. If it happens on the playground, in the hallways, whatever. But being able to, we don't have a lot to go back on in the elementary as far as to maybe have a consequence or whatever the case was. So to Jenny's point, I think what we're trying to say is we're not taking away recess for a kid for a whole week, and in some cases for some of our students, just to show how far times have changed, we'll meet with certain teachers and say, hey, listen, we know it happened, but maybe this particular student and their diagnosis means they need to run and burn off energy. What else can we do to maybe cement that lesson home? It's not about a punishment, but it's about a consequence and a time to have that conversation. So I'm not gonna lie, I got a little nervous because I'm like, oh my God, it's been like 13 years. And so I feel a lot better if there's something in there about it. Just says, yeah, from time to time we understand you might need to do that, but it's not, we don't cancel it for the year.
Okay, thank you.
My concern around it was, we have a behavior goal. We know that males are kind of our target because they need to burn that off. So when I saw, like recess being taken away and thinking about that, doesn't make sense behaviorally. And then you brought that example, which kind of made me feel a little bit better where,
they
probably
definitely
need it.
acknowledge that was the conversation of like, we're not taking away recess because we know these are the kids who need to be out there.
Right.
But however it was worded, it was very strong, like never. And they were like, well, what happens if we do keep a kid? And then I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll have Tim bring it back so we can make the change.
And I don't know how, so recess shall be used as a reward or punishment, or shall not be used as a reward or punishment. Why are we not rewarding? Like, does that mean like an extra recess? Because I know kids really get pumped about that. So, what do we?
I wondered that too, but when I reread it, it requires one recess daily, so I think it's that one recess, but you could always add in extras,
We say to our people, take them out if they need it, and if sometimes that's what they're working towards earning, and so it's.
When it's 43 on Monday, they're going to be out all day.
Right, I can't wait.
The way we
I'm just waiting. If it turns to 43, I'm waiting for our custodial crew to just be like, we got 3 inches of mud everywhere. Whatever. But yeah, it was very happy today that we were able to go outside. I mean, and our teachers will tell you that too. Inside recess is not the same thing as outside recess. So it's good. But
Are you guys good on that one?
Brooke, did you have something to add?
Well, I was just saying that, like, right, the way that the policy's written right now, it said you couldn't offer an extra recess as an incentive. So we were saying that just didn't really make sense because kids really love that, and it doesn't happen all the time. It was like it was a big prize that you could win at Plinko this past week was an extra recess for your class, but right now, the way the policy was written, we weren't allowed to do that. So we were just kind of questioning.
That's how I read it too, and I was like, this seems just a little off, but then on the regular basis, just makes it okay every once in a while for those situations.
since Brooke and I supervise those recesses, the teachers are really pulling for that too. Because we take their kids for 30 minutes. So.
Sounds great. All right.
Everybody wins at Plinko. All right, that's it for 34.1. Does anybody want to talk through any of the Edgar special update policies? No. Okay, so Allison, what do you have pulled out?
5512, 8395. And I had a question around the gifted learner one. Are we good with that one, or is that one still pulled out?
No, I'm good with that one. I just wanted to understand it better.
And what about 4124? That was the first one about the reasonable assurance for employment. That we were good on too, right?
You good on that one, Dennis?
All right, so then the two that I have, 5512, 8395, and give me more clarity around the 7540.03. Are you good with it?
We're good. I'll
Okay.
talk to Tina and Amy.
Okay, and then just bring it back if you have.
Then that's it, just those two.
Okay.
Did I miss any? Get back 12, 8395. I want to call attention to, I just want to say this out loud and in public, about that policy for Google, because Google is requiring us to have policy around that, and that's why the letter was sent out to all families. They're updating, Google updated, we just want to make sure everyone knows about that they can't sell, use, take any of our student information. And so this was for the remainder of this school year, the consent will be assumed. So unless someone says no, calls us and says no, we're assuming that parents have given us the consent that their kids can use Google. In the fall or in the summer when they register, they'll have to go through this again, and it'll be part of the, from now on, it will be part of the paperwork for registrations. So just calling attention to that went out a couple days ago. We're ahead of the game on that. Anything else?
All right. Then we want to move to adopt those policies, minus those.
Yeah, I can make a motion to adopt Series 3441 minus Policy 5512 and 8395 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional conversation on those policies? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. So we'll bring those two back, or?
You need a motion.
We need
on
Edgar.
Edgar.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the Edgar update policies as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on those? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried on those as well. And then immigration is fine. All right, that brings us to our second citizens forum. Anybody choose to speak tonight?
Amy Shores, W598 Health Drive. Heidi Melzer, you had asked about what they're doing AGR, and then Allison had talked about Brooke geeking out on stuff. Ask her about letter leaders at Glenbrook, because she'll geek out on that. And it's really cool what those fourth graders are doing with the kindergartners. Josh, I just want to mention, I actually just looked it up. The AGR reports from previous years are still on the website. So I'm sure they're in your box. So maybe something doesn't have to have extra work on that. The gifted learners thing. So you two, especially Jen and Josh, are really like focused on that, it seems like. And I know that there is like some things that they can do, and I'm not really well versed in it, for target time for those gifted learners. Like I know at Glenbrook, the second grade teachers asked the PTO to fund some things to help them during that target time. So I would just really hope that you guys either spend some time with our LSTs or maybe ask our LSTs to present of what they have to do. You guys all know I volunteer a couple hours in their office just doing busy work a week for them, and the rotation of the learners that are coming through. I don't know how much is gifted learners. I think they're mostly having to work with the learners that need to catch up. But I bet you they have really, really good ideas on how we can support our teachers and our kids if you reach out to them. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Brooks, stick around and talk to us about letter leaders, please.
Sorry, signed you up for more time today.
All right, next workshop meeting, March 5th.
Hang on a second.
Oh.
We do have a scout in the group tonight, so just giving you the opportunity that if you have any questions when we're done, we can answer those questions for you, okay? We won't make you talk out loud in front of the big group, but we'll come over and visit if you need anything. All right.
Thanks for staying awake for this.
Yeah.
Brutal. All right, next workshop meeting will be at the high school, March 5th. 4 things on that agenda so far, including insurance, so we'll get the first glimpse of insurance for the next year. Some budget, athletics, Janelle's going to be here for that one, and then honorary diploma. Just need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Have a good night, everybody.
Where are we meeting?